Tick-tock, the clock on this year's session is quickly running down, and there's finger-pointing between the House and Senate over which body needs to buckle down. Campus carry remains in play, even as some student leaders across the state say no thanks to the notion of firearms at their schools. Plus, from beekeeping as a child to constant political buzz, our Jackie Britton talks to Sandra Deal about living the fishbowl life in the governor's mansion. Lawmakers starts right now. Welcome to Lawmakers. I'm Bill Nygett. It is day 34 of the 2016 session. Just 6 days left for political wheeling and dealing down at the Capitol. Our Shelby Lynn is tracking all of it for us down there. Hi, Shelby. What you got for us tonight?
That's right, Bill. We've got the latest for you under the dome today, and the latest on a little turmoil, too. An outcry in the House erupted today after a Southern Baptist lobbyist compared the General Assembly to Hitler over a lack of action on several religious liberty measures. But first, we want to update you on the 2017 budget. The Senate approved its version of the $24 billion spending plan today, making some changes to the House version. Both chambers set aside more funds for state employees, including teachers, but the Senate debate today focused on what was left out of the budget.
2017 general budget totals $23.79 billion.
Senate Appropriations Chair Jack Hill took his colleagues through the $24 billion budget line by line. He says increased revenues from the gas excise tax and the lottery has given the state more money to work with. Hill says education is the biggest and most important part of the 2017 budget.
And this budget appropriates $8.91 billion for K-12 education. Of course, the education also includes in that money $413 million in lottery funds. That's an addition to the $8.91 billion. So when you add that to it, you're over $9 billion in total funds for K-12 education. Now, included in this new K-12 funding is $424 million in new funds for enrollment growth and for austerity reductions that are focused on providing raises for teachers.
But Senate Minority Leader Steve Henson criticized the education part of the budget, saying the state isn't doing enough to meet the needs of today's schools.
Schools are finding more challenges today than ever before. Single-parent families, children coming to school with somewhat higher levels of physical ailments or psychological challenges that are causing more and more burdens on our school system. You know, we should be looking at enhancing areas to improve education and our students' quality within the educational process.
Senator Vincent Ford of Atlanta criticized the Senate again for not expanding Medicaid in Georgia.
Medicaid expansion would bring health care to 650,000 Georgians. It would help Grady Hospital in DeKalb and Fulton County, but guess what? It would help your rural hospitals, many of which are on the cusp, even as we speak, on the cusp of closing. Medicaid expansion makes good moral sense, but it makes good fiscal sense.
But when it was time to vote, the budget was approved by a wide margin, 53-2. The Senate immediately sent it back to the House for review. In the House today, the legislative action paled in comparison to comments made by a Southern Baptist church lobbyist. The lobbyist compared the Georgia legislature to Hitler over the Assembly's lack of progress on religious liberty legislation. An angry bipartisan uproar erupted on the floor of the House this morning.
I'm proud to be a Georgia Baptist. But today I'm in this well because I'm absolutely ashamed of the actions taken by someone out there in that hall who wears a badge and claims to represent Christian values and us Georgia Baptist.
Georgia Mission Board lobbyist Mike Griffin referred to Adolf Hitler in a blog post in the Christian Index that said, quote, "We must not let the government do to us what Hitler did to the pastors and churches of his day. He got them to accept his protection from government action if they would agree to stay out of government. He basically said, you take care of the church and leave government to me," unquote.
I'm going to ask him to personally apologize to every one of us in this room, to our speaker, who starts us off every day with a pastor of the day. The fact that we are now being referred to as Hitler in our state government is despicable.
And someone has challenged the integrity of this House. They have shunned our discourse and our collaborative process. They have belittled our spirit of cooperation, and they have maligned each and every member of this House.
I'm disappointed, but from a bigger standpoint, be careful. Let's don't fall in the abyss of what we're seeing in this country. You can't say anything to anybody anytime you get ready to say it. Common decency must become the rule of the day again.
House Speaker David Ralston, a Southern Baptist himself, says Griffin's comments were not about the church or the denomination, but about the General Assembly as a whole.
I took those comments to mean that he was comparing this House of Representatives and this state government to Adolf Hitler, one of the most evil, despicable creatures in history, and Nazi Germany. And I found that to be very offensive, and I reject it. Frankly, I was sickened by his comments. I think that's the kind of that's the tone that is really damaging our political process here in this country.
Ralston says lawmakers are still in discussions over how to proceed with a religious liberty bill that Ralston co-sponsored, the Pastor Protection Act. When the Senate passed the bill and returned it to the House, they attacked on another bill, the First Amendment Defense Act.
It's an issue that's had some controversy, and people feel very intensely on both sides. And I'm hopeful, though, that we'll be able to arrive at a reasonable solution before the session's over. But comments like that are not helpful.
Also in the House today, a final vote on a less controversial religious liberty measure that's been called the headband bill. Senate Bill 309, originally sponsored in the House by Representative Brian Strickland, passed on a vote of 123 to 34. The measure will prevent the Georgia High School Association from disqualifying athletes who display religious words or symbols on their sports uniforms. The measure was prompted by an incident last year when a cross-country runner was barred from a track meet because he was wearing a Bible verse on his headband. Student athletes will now be allowed to wear religious symbols on their uniforms as long as the event itself allows symbols on sportswear. The legislation now goes to the governor for approval. It's shaping up as a busy day here at the Capitol tomorrow, Bill. Both the House and the Senate have a fairly full schedule on the floor. The Senate is scheduled to vote on the controversial campus carry measure, which of course we'll be following, and we'll also continue to follow the progress of the 2017 budget, which is now in the House. That's it from the Capitol. Back to you, Bill, in the studio.
Thank you, Shelby. An interesting day downtown. So here we are back on the set. My guests tonight are Senator Harold Jones, he's a Democrat from Augusta, and Todd Ream, Republican political consultant and blogger at GeorgiaPundit.com. Todd, I thought the most interesting moment in the story that Shelby just told about this Hitler reference was what the speaker said at the very end. Comments like that are not helpful. I mean, this is already a mess down there, and when the notion of comparing the Georgia House to Hitler is introduced, it just makes the whole thing even harder to deal with, doesn't it?
I don't think that Mike Griffin meant it that way. I don't think that he compared them to Hitler. But anytime you bring out that word Hitler, or you talk about Nazi Germany, you are using inflammatory language, and everybody's going to get offended. I don't think it was helpful, but I think that I would hate to see all of the rest of the debate about the religious liberties measures, the various ones, come down to somebody in the hall called us some names that are unacceptable.
Maybe not, but this does intensify the heat about all of this down there, doesn't it, Senator?
It certainly intensifies it. One of the things we've seen is the coursing of American politics, and one of the things that I'm most proud of is how we handle business and the Capitol, whether it's in the House or in the Senate. And certainly we can disagree with each other, and we do that vehemently, but we always do it in a respectful manner. So those type of comments have have no place in Georgia politics at all. We don't want what's happening on the national level to come here. We're above that type of fray.
All right, I want to, as long as we're talking about that, I want to play a little exchange, video of a little exchange, some sound, about the House and Senate accusing each other of refusing to take up the other side's legislation. Let's take a quick look at that right now, if we can. Do we have it?
But the cold hard facts are you didn't produce anything. You've left all this stuff kind of hanging over there, and you think that you're going to attach it to those House bills. Well, the cold hard facts, that ain't going to happen. You attach them, they're dead. We don't care.
Chair, I hear the message, but I also want to reciprocate by saying, move some Senate bills. We'll move it out.
I would love to move one if we'd get one in committee that could pass out. If somebody'd get the budget out of the Senate, we could just sign it die. Because after that exchange, we ain't going to pass any Senate bills.
All right, so let me ask this. Senator, we know that the House is not enthusiastic about the way the Pastor Protection Act was amended over in the Senate side. The Senate added Greg Kirk's First Amendment Defense Act, which a lot of people feel goes too far in terms of the potential for it to be used to exhibit prejudice, discriminate against gays and lesbians particularly. Is the House holding up Senate bills as a tactic in getting the House to back down in a compromise over what's going to happen to that measure, do you think?
Certainly I can't speak for the House, but I'll tell you what the Lieutenant Governor says a lot. It's time for the House to start working on some bills and start moving things. That's what it's time to do. So whatever may be going on, whatever theatrics may be happening, it's time to get the people's business done.
Todd, it's not unusual for this kind of drama to happen in the last days of the session, but I do wonder if it's the Pastor Protection Bill that's causing a lot of this.
Well, when this happened the other day, I said it's a little bit early for the annual meltdown.
That's right.
but what I'd say is that we've had a process going on all through this week that's going to intensify that pressure, especially on some of your rural legislators. We've had qualifying at the Capitol, and there's been a broad cross-section. I'm looking specifically at Republican incumbents in the Senate in rural districts who are getting challenges. And I think for those legislators, if you have one of the more conservative districts, if you're in a Northwest Georgia or maybe a South Georgia district, there's going to be a lot more pressure on you to stay hard on your position on the First Amendment Defense Act or the other religious liberties.
But the House made it clear they're willing to go home without anything passing in that regard.
Well, certainly we can't do that. There's too many important pieces of legislation.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm talking specifically about the Pastor Protection Bill. They've said, fine, we'll go home with nothing.
I think that although I voted against that particular bill, they need to take it up and do the same thing the Senate did, which actually is debate the bill and have a vote on it.
Okay. I want to correct myself. It wasn't the House leadership. It was the governor who said it's fine with me if Pastor Protection, if none of that passes. And that in itself is a big statement about the future of this legislation if they don't find a compromise.
And I think that's what we'll be working to do. And hopefully we can get that done. There are some issues about that particular bill. As I said, I voted on it. Most Democrats voted against it. And hopefully that compromise can be made because we want to see legislation go forward.
Let's talk about your grand jury bill, which you do feel is going to get through before the end of the session. It relates to the privilege that law enforcement officers have had to testify in grand jury hearings, right?
Correct. Now, that's correct. Now, it's not my grand jury bill, but it is going through non-civil judiciary, which I'm a member of. The key thing is officers right now, if they're accused of excessive force, basically serious bodily injury, they can go into a grand jury and give any statement that they want to give. They can do that right now today. This particular bill will allow them to once again give that statement, but the key difference is they actually can be asked questions by the district attorney's office. That is a fundamental difference and is a good difference. And I think a lot of persons are having trouble wrestling with the fact that right now a deputy can go into the grand jury and say anything he wants. He can say he's the greatest deputy that ever existed. No questions can be asked. This changes that. So I think it's a good change. One area that we're going to be looking at is whether, if a death occurs, whether there should be a special prosecutor that will be appointed to do that. And there may be some questions about whether you can automatically appoint a special prosecutor without showing some type of bias or prejudice, but that's an issue that we're looking into.
Todd, what's interesting about this is I assume it is a reaction to all of the police officers and other law enforcement officers we've seen who have not been indicted in the last few years, very visible cases of that. But what's interesting is that this is a Republican legislature that seems to be willing to move ahead on this.
Well, I think you have two important things happening. One is that you have had the Black Lives Matter, the African American organizations talking about the abuse of civilian rights. You've also had that coming out on the right, though, from the small L libertarian stream of the Republican Party. And then on top of that, you have body cameras and camera phones, which allow us to see what actually happened. And as a film student, I know that you don't necessarily know what happened from seeing it, but it causes a lot of people to question what's going on in the system. And so you've got different groups. It's not just a Republican, and it's not all Republicans that are in favor of it. It's not just Democrats or all Democrats, but you've got various groups that are having some concerns about procedures and reining in the police in some fashion.
Interesting.
Extremely interesting, the fact that it is coming from Republicans. I was even telling some of my prosecutor colleagues, because I used to be a prosecutor, that I was actually surprised about the bill because it is a fundamental change. And we've had a lot of persons come out against it because they don't like the fact that the deputy is actually able to be in the grand jury and actually to give testimony. But I think what persons are missing is right now, today, he or she can do that. The difference after this bill hopefully goes through is that they will be able to be questioned about their testimony. That is a fundamental difference.
Okay. Chances of this getting through the entire body are pretty good, you believe, right?
I think it'll be pretty good. Everyone has some issues with it, but I think it'll be pretty good. I think it's a good bill. Would like to see the special prosecutor provision in there, but I think it is a good bill.
While we're talking about law enforcement, there is a modification being made to a statute that already exists, First Offender Act, that's right now gotten a lot of currency. It's on the front page of the newspaper this morning, which would allow for the purging of record. Well, not purging, but if you're a first offender, your record becomes private. It's locked. People can't look at it. Good idea?
I think that we're going to be talking a lot about balancing issues here. It's part of as I understand, part of the movement towards criminal justice reform, looking at how can we be smarter about offenses and not let relatively minor or even somewhat major things hold somebody back the rest of their life. And there have been some legitimate, I think, concerns such as employment screening and the First Amendment rights of newspapers to get this information. And it's a balancing test, but I have seen a lot of stuff come out of the Georgia legislature in terms of this criminal justice reform that just a couple years ago I would have thought nobody would ever
Absolutely. Get tough on crime, get tough on criminals, and now the governor has moved criminal justice reform down the field, and this is another example of that kind of measure. And one of the reasons, Senator, I think it's people are looking at it seriously now, is the proliferation of businesses that consult with employers to really ferret out the depth of a potential employee's background, right?
Correct. And I think it's a great provision in this particular bill. And let's make no mistake, I actually went to the well of the Senate and said, this is a bill that I'm actually proud to support, the criminal justice reform bill. So not only is first offender in there, but the other provisions are. But looking at the first offender, what it'll allow a person to do is actually have that record sealed. Many times when I was a prosecutor, we used to wonder if we would get open records requests and things of that nature. What could we give and what could we not give? This law specifically states that basically it will be sealed, and that can be done at sentencing. And the great thing about it is a person who didn't have it sealed before this law came into effect, they can go back and ask.
Before we take a break, you play a dual role. On one side, you're a consultant and you work with a number of Republican candidates successfully. On the other side, you're really a journalist. GeorgiaPundit.com is a journalistic endeavor, I think it's fair to say. So where do you see your First Amendment rights in terms of being able to access information about people?
I've always been an absolutist on the First Amendment before I got into this line of work. But, at the same time, I grew up here, and I've got friends whose employment options are less because of what things they did before they even got to college. I've got a friend who's a physician who has an offense on his record from high school that he still worries about. It was a nonviolent, and so I can see both sides of it. And as far as advising my clients who are seeking election, it's really their decision, depending on the politics of their district and what their people want.
All right, we got to take a break, so stay with us. We're talking a little bit about Campus Carry when we come back, but also First Lady Sandra Deal talks with us about the things she loves about the governor's mansion and the things she won't miss when their second term is up. But up first, another edition of Know Your Lawmaker. Greg Kirk is a Republican representing Senate District 13. He was sworn into the General Assembly in 2015. He's a small business owner and a former Baptist preacher. He's also fond of motocross and tells us he was a semi-pro dirt bike racer for 3 years before a back injury took him out of competition. Lawmakers returns in a moment.
You already suffering from Downton withdrawal? This Friday, come back to the Abbey for a special Downton evening. First, head down the red carpet as the British Academy of Film and Television Arts commemorates the series with a gala in London. Then watch an encore presentation of the magnificent series finale. And finally, go behind the scenes with the cast and crew as they reminisce about their time on the show with a tribute to Downton Abbey. A special evening of Downton starts this Friday at 7, only on GPB.
On this date, March 10th, 1866, Governor Charles Jenkins signed a bill making it lawful for married women to have their own bank accounts, independent of their husbands. The caveat was that the total balance of any such accounts could not exceed $2,000. Welcome back to Lawmakers. Here with us tonight, Senator Harold Jones of Augusta and Todd Ream. He's a Republican political consultant, editor of GeorgiaPundit.com, and one of the great homeless dog advocates. And before we talk Campus Carry, we have never congratulated you on this TV show for your effort to get a resolution passed in the legislature to help Georgians realize there are dogs out there that need adoption. That was quite a feat.
We're not quite all the way through, but I look forward to a signing ceremony where we can all bring our dogs out to Liberty Plaza and watch the governor sign the bill.
All right, congrats. I thought it was done deal, but we'll watch for that. Thank you, Todd. Let's talk very briefly about Campus Carry. Yes. Senator, it's now your turn to weigh in this. The House passed it overwhelmingly. They think that we should have guns on campus if you're 21 years or older, concealed guns. There's some student leaders at Georgia Tech the other day who said, we don't want this right. We think it's bad news for us. What's the Senate going to do with this measure, do you imagine?
It's going to be a very interesting conversation when it comes up. I've had over 9,000 emails on this against. My emails have been flooded, and I've received information from Georgia Tech, but it's been professors, it's been students, it's been worried parents have been talking about this. And so at this point in time, Campus Carry would allow it in any building. Now, of course, we exempt, now we say athletic events and we exempt the dormitories and frat houses, but any building could mean that you go into something like in Augusta, we have a performing arts theater on Augusta State University, Augusta University. That means you could go into there and do that. Many other colleges have something similar. And something that we've recently been looking into as a Democratic caucus is the fact that many colleges have daycare centers that are located on their college.
All right.
Are we allowed to go in there?
Todd, the governor says he supports this. Are we really going to, is the Senate really going to be able to block it, do you imagine? Is the governor going to exert pressure on them?
I think that the Senate is going to pass it tomorrow. I think there's not much question in my mind that it's going forward.
Oh, and it is on the calendar tomorrow?
That's my understanding.
Okay, good. That's news for us, right? Are you going to take the well and fight this?
That's my plan. I actually will be taking the well tomorrow.
What do you say?
Things I just said today, but even more importantly, the fact that so many parents are concerned. And I'll tell you this, I actually used to teach on the college level and had a deputy in my class with a gun. It makes you very uneasy.
All right. Stay with us, but we're going to go to Jackie Britton in a second. You know, the House and Senate will often go back and forth over legislation, give each other flack about which chamber is working harder. But you know what? Over at the governor's mansion, Sandra Deal doesn't have to worry about that sort of thing. She does have to worry about how she takes care of the governor's mansion, and it means a great deal to her. We're going to talk with her, or Jackie Britton rather, Hitler, talked with her about the fact that the mansion is the official home of governors. Right now, it's Mrs. Deal and Nathan Deal. And Jackie had a chance to talk to them about all of this. Jackie?
That's right. Thanks, Bill. I had a chance to go one-on-one with First Lady Sandra Deal about her adjustment to life in the People's House. It's one of the most beautiful places you'll ever step foot in. The state drawing room, the dining room, the Georgia room. Sitting on 18 acres, it tells quite a story. And for a couple who enjoys the quiet outdoors of their cabin home, living in the governor's mansion took some getting used to.
It just does away with running around in your bathrobe or your bedroom slippers. You just can't do that anymore.
Is that frustrating though? I mean, you can't come down the stairs, have a cup of coffee, be in your pajamas and cuddle up on the couch.
I think that's what was the hardest thing to adjust to.
The furniture here is 200 years old and very different from what they're accustomed to.
Well, we usually had leather. Because of the animals and things, it was nice to be able to wipe it off. But this is special. And you feel like when you invite somebody to come in that it is a special place.
And you might imagine that on any typical morning, you could find them having breakfast in the formal dining room. But that couldn't be further from the truth. A spot at the kitchen table with a pot of coffee, that's more their style.
Which cup would you like?
I have a mug just like that.
Do you? You want one like this?
Yeah, I'll try that
Okay,
one.
this is a great, these are Girl Scout mugs, and I love these mugs because they're nice and big.
The First Lady immediately makes you feel right at home. So as we took our coffee and walked around, I learned that Mrs. Deal stays very busy with initiatives close to her heart. A former school teacher, being the First Lady, has put her on a platform where she can reach students she wouldn't have been able to connect with before.
It's been my privilege to be able to travel the state and promote reading for both the children and the parents. Sitting at home at my house, I would have felt like I was invading somebody's privacy. But they are glad for me to come as First Lady because that lets the children see what a First Lady looks like and that I'm just a normal grandmother like their grandmothers and that I just love reading and that I want them to learn how to read.
As we strolled the grounds of the mansion inside and out, we found our way into the First Lady's favorite room, the library, where she shared one of the cutest stories about the governor.
He always has loved dogs, and so he would love to have one, and the staff was just about to give him one, and I happened to get wind of it and said, oh no. After he leaves here, he can have a dog of his choice, but not while we're here with the responsibility we have here.
And of all the things to love, it's no surprise what Mrs. Deal will miss the most.
Oh, I think maybe the access to some of the books will be the thing that I miss because I would just love to be able to read all of those history books and learn so much that I didn't know about Georgia. In the settlement, I've learned a lot since I've been here. It's just such a gorgeous place. The people of Georgia need to be proud of it.
So as you can see, the First Lady loves education and reading, and so she collaborated with two authors to put together this book, Memories of the Mansion, that details its history. You can find out more about it at mansion.georgia.gov. Bill.
Jackie, that must have been a great experience for you, getting a chance to spend some time with her at the governor's mansion.
Yeah, it was awesome.
You know, you can argue with the governor all you want about where he stands politically, but I really don't think you can argue with the fact that Sandra Deal is just a really lovely person, and it came across in that piece. Todd Ream, you noticed it right away. Mrs. Deal said the governor wants a dog.
And I've heard that from his staff as well.
This is your opening. Have you got one in mind for him?
We can bring a whole bunch to the
All right, look, we're just about out of time tonight. Senator, it was a pleasure. Your first visit to Lawmakers.
It was my first
It wasn't too painful, was it?
It wasn't too painful,
All right, well, thank you. And Todd Ream, we're always glad to have you with us. So thank you, too, for being here tonight. That's a wrap for day 34 of the legislature. We're down to 6 days left in this session. It's only going to get more intense. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter at GPB News or at gpb.org/lawmakers, where you can watch full episodes of the show. Remember, tomorrow at 3 o'clock, I'll be on the radio, GPB State Radio, to talk with our guests on Political Rewind, Todd Ream, a frequent guest panelist on the show. In the meantime, thanks for joining us tonight. We will see you again on Monday night. Good night.